Hi guys, Grand J here, and welcome to the next video in our Opus 3 Set review. I apologize for the delays. It has been regional season, so I have been kind of busy with that. But yeah, now I've got a bit more time, so yeah, let's get back on track. So the first card to look at is Izana. So Izana is a 2-cost forward, 5,000 power. When it enters the field, you may search your deck for one drop Chocobo or card named Chocobo and add it to your hand. This card doesn't seem particularly amazing at the moment so far, simply because that there's just not enough decent Chocobos, and also there doesn't seem to be enough support with party attacking at the moment. Who knows? This card may see some sort of niche play in the future when better Chocobos start entering the game. We might see. All you really need is just like one or two really strong card combos with this, and that's going to really be able to push it forward. So just for example, Lena, for example, not particularly amazing card, but comboed with the new Knight, very strong. So I think all Izana needs is really just kind of like one or two particularly relevant Chocobos in the game, and yeah, this card might actually see some play. But yeah, this is one of those cards that's just like time will tell. Next card is Aerith. So Aerith is one of the wind legendaries of this set. It's a free cost backup. If you control a category 7 forward, the cost of playing Aerith on the field is reduced by 1. Forwards you control cannot be chosen by abilities or backups your opponent controls. So on paper, it's a very similar effect to the previous Aerith's Planet Protector, in that it's protecting your guys from being chosen by certain abilities. In this case, it's preventing all your guys from being chosen by backup abilities. So I think that this card is actually quite good. I think it's actually surprisingly underrated. There's quite a lot of cards in the metagame that this shuts off. So fundamentally, it shuts off pretty much the entire lightning backup suite, except for say Sage. Most lightning backups have some sort of offensive purpose, and yeah, this shuts all of it off. Against fire, it's very handy as well. Most fire backups are either dealing damage or making guys unable to block, and this is able to lock it out. Against Earth, it stops Rub Arm, which is one of the main tools that Earth has for removal. So this card is quite strong. In addition, unlike Planet Protector, the previous Aerith, as long as this card's down, your guys are protected from EX burst from backup abilities. So some good examples are, as we said before, Raban. Another great example will be Bartz. So Bart's got a really strong EX burst ability in that when it's dealt as damage, freeze 2 forward. So this just basically locks them out completely. So yeah, I actually think that this card might actually be fine even outside of like a deck that runs category 7 forwards. As a free cost backup, it's fine. There's plenty of times where we're running free cost backups. Definitely you don't want to get too greedy with your build in terms of if you have too many free costs or 4 costs or higher backups, then it gets really difficult to ramp into the specific backups you need. But I think in certain decks this should actually see a lot of play. I personally feel that the greatest strength for this card is actually with the new legendary Deleter, in that Deleter's ability is really strong in that he's able to destroy forwards or abilities, forwards or backups that target him. But it's much more penalizing to destroy a forward that chooses him than to destroy a backup. So there are cases where I've used Raban on an enemy Deleter, and I don't feel bad at all because I was going to have to break that Raban later with a Deleter myself. But this just basically clears it out so you can use it again. Yeah. So Aerith basically helps solidify Deleter's one weakness is that your opponent can't use backups to target him, and that's great because your opponent can't just like infinitely recur backups. Plus, not to mention, there's just a lot of really good backups that target forwards now. So I think that this card actually should see more play. But right now, Wind hasn't been a super popular color at the moment. It's being splashed as a secondary into quite a couple of other colors. But I think time will tell. I think if we see more ice play, and we really should be seeing more ice play, this card's just going to like see more and more play, as it's just going to be able to lock out a lot of relevant effects. Next card is 8. So 8 is another Ace Cadet. It's free cost forward at 7,000 power, so that's standard where you want to be. When 8 enters the field, choose up the 3 job class 0 cadets you control and activate them. This is an effect that's very similar to Pain in that you're basically able to play this card and reactivate some cards, making this card effectively free when it comes into play. It doesn't have the ability to draw your card that Pain does, but it has a relevant S ability. So just by discarding an 8, and paying a win. During this turn, 8 cannot be chosen by opponent's summons or abilities, and the next damage dealt to him becomes 0. So this ability has a lot of flexibility in terms of you can use it as a combat trick. So you can use it in a situation where you'd be trading, or in a situation where 8 would be losing a combat and then basically prevent the damage. Or if there's some sort of ability or someone that's trying to target him that would remove him, this is a great way to get rid of it as well. So 8 is a strong card all around. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't play him in pretty much in a Class 0 cadet deck. The fact that you can reactivate any sort of Class 0 cadets, whether they're backups or forwards, is also fantastic. So there are times where you might want to attack with your forwards and have them active on defense. You can do that. Or if there's times where you just want to get some tempo down, if you have some ace cadets in your backup line, such as Rem, such as Cater, such as Deuce. You can play this guy down, reactivate the backups that you sent to put him in. Another great combo that this card combos into is the 1 cost forward Jack. So Jack is a 1 cost 7,000 power forward, but when it does, it's unable to reactivate on your next turn. So attacking with Jack and then using 8 to reactivate him is actually a really strong combo, actually. So yeah, this card's a strong card. Definitely will only see play in a Class 0 cadet deck just because his effect is so niche there. But when he is in there, he's quite a strong card. Next card, Dancer. So Dancer is a 1 cost forward at 3,000 power, so that's kind of standard of what you would see at a 1 cost level. And it has the ability where you just dull it to deal 1,000 damage to all forwards your opponent controls. So very similar to the 3 cost backup that spreads 1,000 damage to all your opponent controls. However, I don't like the fact that it's on a 3,000 power forward. Yes, it's cheap. Yes, it's efficient. It's definitely cheaper to get this guy in than the 3 cost backup Dancer. However, that being said, 3,000 power forward are very easily destroyable forwards. It dies to pretty much any sort of AoE ability, and any sort of secondary nuke will be able to destroy him as well. So definitely, I don't think this guy will see any play, even in decks that have some sort of combo where you're trying to spread damage. Such as with, say, the Barbariccia deck, you're definitely much more likely to be playing the 3 cost Dancer backup as opposed to this, just because you have a much greater ability to retain your 3 cost Dancer than this 1 cost Dancer. Yeah. Next card is Ranger. So Ranger is 3 cost forward at 7,000 power. Ranger cannot be chosen by abilities of characters your opponent controls. This card seems quite strong as a standard unit. So not much really that can be said about this card. Its power is on curve, and it's got a relevant ability that's obviously going to be stronger or weaker depending on the metagame. That being said, though, there's pretty much being unable to be chosen by character abilities is always going to be a relevant effect. It's always going to be a strong effect. It's relevant against 4 or 5 colors easily. So against fire it's good, against lightning it's good, against wind to some extent, and yeah, definitely it's good against a lot of the field. And at 7,000 power, it's where you'd expect it to be. This comboed into some sort of standard unit deck or some sort of other support to get him stronger is really going to be able to push this card forward. So I think in a sort of more casual deck, this card will definitely see play. And this card, just on paper, ticks all the boxes, but it just ultimately comes down to what sort of synergies can get this guy over the edge. Potentially running a standard unit deck with, say, Arc support, and maybe splashing in some Water Gain Warrior Light in there, push this guy quite a lot further. So just putting a 2-cost backup down like Arc can make this guy 8,000 power forward that's unable to be targeted by abilities that cost 3, so that's sounding great already. So this card really should be seeing play, should be seeing more play than it is at the moment. I think time will tell as sort of Win experiments with all the different options. It's kind of on that cusp of being competitive playable. But I think right now just Wind is not super popular, so that's why we're not really seeing him. Next card is what? Oh, it's Black Chocobo. So Black Chocobo is one of the first Chocobos actually that isn't a standard unit, but is actually a Chocobo. So it is a 1 cost. It is a 1 cost forward at 3,000 power. If Black Chocobo forms a party, that party cannot be blocked. So don't really know where to sort of put this. Obviously, yeah, there are tons of ways to sort of make your guys unblockable, such as through Red Mage's ability or through Zemus's ability, or just being bigger than your opponent's guys. I don't think that this card is a good card, and my main reasoning is that making you guys making it. There are plenty of ways that you can make your guys unblockable outside of this, as well as there are ways to just make your opponent not want to block. If you're threatening your opponent with a guy that's going to be able to win combat, or you threaten your opponent to think that you have a combat trick, in a lot of cases they're not going to block you anyways. This card really sort of just helps you leak some damage through, and at a one cost 3,000 power forward, I don't think you really want to be doing that. Plus, that win doesn't really have issues getting through blockers as well. There's plenty of cards such as Zidane, such as Yuffie, that can get you through like bigger blockers. So I don't think that this card really adds much more to the sort of the win pool of cards. Next card is Thief. So this is a new 2-cost backup. It has an ability for 1 win, 1 CP, and dull. Put Thief into the break zone. Your opponent puts the top 2 cards of their deck into the break zone. So this is different to the previous Thief backup in that this card is able to mill 2 cards off the top of your opponent's deck, but it is a consumable effect. So I actually have some experience playing with this card recently, because one of the Melbourne regionals, the first Melbourne regional actually was won by a mill deck that used 3 copies of this card. It was my only loss in Swiss, and yeah, it is quite a strong card. Obviously I'll be doing I'll be doing deck spotlight with that deck as well, but this card is not to be slept on. On paper it doesn't seem super amazing, but in a mill deck, you can just consider it as another way to sort of burst 2 extra mill. So the way that I've seen it played, so you have like a Riku who's doing kind of your regular milling of like 1 or 2 cards a return, but once your opponent gets down to say 7 or 8 cards, if you have 2 or 3 of these guys, you just like tap and break like 2 or 3 of these guys, your opponent loses instantly like 6, 7, 8 cards, and then all of a sudden your opponent just loses next turn. So this card's effect is more of a sort of, if Mill had a burst damage option, this would kind of be their burst. It's a strong card in Mill. Mill's the only place where it's ever really going to be seen. But yeah, don't sleep on this card. It has proven itself to be strong. Next card is Zidane. So Zidane, there's a lot of Zidanes now. So this Zidane is Heroic Wind Zidane. It's a 3-cost sword at 3,000 power, so that's significantly below where it should be. But when Zidane enters the field, your opponent reveals their hand. You choose 1 card from your opponent's hand. Your opponent discards that card. If your opponent's hand is 2 or less cards, Zidane gets plus 4,000 power. So let's sort of break this down. So first of all, when he enters the field and your opponent discards a card from their hand, that's basically like taking 2 CP away from your opponent. But not only that, it's much stronger than just like kind of a standard discard effect such as like Sarah, because you're able to look at your opponent's hand and you get to selectively choose a card from their hand. So this is relevant in a couple of different ways. So one is that you get to, when you're using a discard ability, your opponent's generally discarding the worst or least relevant card from their hand. In this situation, you're actually discarding probably the most relevant or most powerful card from your opponent's hand. So there's an inherent value in that. And in addition to this, it also reveals your opponent's hand to you. So if you're in a situation where you don't know if your opponent has combat tricks, or if you don't know if your opponent can respond to you with certain things, this card gives you information on your opponent that turn, and that's really having that information for a high-level player is really, really good. There might be times where you may not go play as aggressively simply because you're not sure if your opponent might have like a combat trick or if your opponent is able to respond with like an S ability, but by playing this card, you're able to see your opponent's hand, and it lets you act much more freely. In addition, it makes him discard a card as well. And on top of that, if your opponent's hand is at 2 or less, he gets plus 4,000 power. So that's also another relevant ability. So when you think about at 3 cost, 7,000 is where you really want to be. And if you're sort of playing a sort of faster paced deck, and your opponent's trying to like respond to that, a lot of times you're going to find your opponent after playing their cards for their turn, they'll end up back down to 2 cards again. So generally on defense, this guy is not going to be bigger than 3,000 in a lot of cases, but generally on your turn, your opponent's hand is going to be smaller, and so he's able to generally attack at 7,000 power. So this card is all round quite good, and I don't know why it doesn't see more play. Obviously, in a lot of win decks, it's being seen play, and I think a lot of win players are very happy that it's saved them in a lot of situations. In one of the regionals that I played, this card single-handedly sort of dicked me out of a game. So I think that this card's strong. And yeah, I think this card's strong, and I think it will see play, and it has been seeing play. Next card is 7. Probably, it's hard to say. Probably my first or second favorite win card from this set. So it is a 2-cost forward at 4,000 power, so it's below the curve. Typically, you expect like a 5 or a 6,000 power forward. Its ability is when job class 0 cadets forwards you control cannot be blocked by forwards of 4 or more. So that's a pretty relevant ability in that it gives all your class 0 cadets the ability to get under like 4 or higher forwards, which in a lot of cases is like most of the like relevant forwards. Most of your bigger forwards are going to be able to like outfight most free costs anyways. So this passive effect is already fantastic. In any sort of Ace Cadet deck, you're probably going to be running free this card. Simply because yes, you put it down, your opponent's blocking, your opponent's blocking options are significantly reduced. Secondly, 7's S ability is unbelievably good as well. Snake Bite for an S. Choose one special ability or auto ability, cancel its effect. So this card, I cannot emphasize how good this card is. Simply because there are so many good auto abilities in this game, and like there's some like obviously special abilities are very, very strong and very potent. So stopping a special ability is very strong, and just locking out being able to stop an auto ability is extremely good. The fact that it costs 2 as well means that there are plenty of ways to recur it. So if you're using Assura, you can use Assura to pick up extra copies of 7, put it into your hand. Or alternatively, if you got a copy of 7 and say you're playing Fire, you can use Phoenix to bring it back onto the field, then discard the 7 from your hand in order to use Snakebite. So just some examples of cards that get wrecked by Snakebite is like Shantotto is a big one. So if you have 7 in hand and you've got a big field and you're afraid your opponent might Shantotto you, that is the best feeling. If your opponent is forced to Shantotto you and you Snakebite it, you've probably won the game. Simply because they're trying to Shantotto you when they're behind on board, and they paid 7 for that, they committed a whole lot of resources, and you just stop it, that's pretty much them losing the game. Being able to stop a Golbez is fantastic. Being able to stop like any number of S abilities such as like death penalty or whatnot is like extremely, extremely strong. So this card is really, really good. It sees play in Type 0 cadets. I put it in a lot of my win decks as well. So yeah, this card is fantastic. I love it, and yeah, probably one of my favorite win cards of this set. Next card is Sky Pirate Replica. So it's Van's Mannequin. It is a free cost forward at 7,000 power, exactly where you want to be. And Van's whenever Sky Pirate Replica attacks, choose a backup you control and activate it. So this is very similar to the 5-cost Van from Opus 1. There's plenty of ways for Win to reactivate their backups. This card by itself doesn't really do enough, so I don't think that this card will see play. And even with some sort of like mannequin support such as through XDef, I don't think that's really sort of enough to sort of get him over the line. Maybe if you're around like some sort of wind-earth combination, you can use Van's Mannequin to, I don't know, like use Harlequin to give him plus 2,000, then Van's Mannequin reactivates him so you can Harlequin again for another 2,000. Sounds like a pretty fragile combo, but yeah, like reactivating backups hasn't been that strong in this game so far, so I don't think that this card will see any play. Next card, King's Tycoon, King Tycoon. So it's a free cost backup. It's a EX burst. When King Tycoon enters the field, you may search your deck for a Faris or a Lena and add it to your hand. So typically, backups that search for cards, they're typically not EX burst as well. If they are EX burst, they're generally 4 cost to sort of like justify it. In this case, you've kind of got the best of both worlds. It's a free cost backup and it's in EX burst. The downside to this card though is that this card is green and it searches you for a blue or red card. So Lena can be just like played by itself. I'm pretty sure 90% of the time if you're playing King Tycoon, you're going to be searching for Lena. Simply because Lena doesn't have a secondary color requirement. So Lena, when you play her out, you can, all you require is blue, and she puts a blue forward back from the field from the break zone to the field. Faris, on the other hand, when you play Faris, he has two main values. So one is that he grabs you a Sildra, which is a water card, and two, he gets an additional buff when Lena's on the field. So in that regard, if you are playing Faris, you're almost certainly playing blue water as well. So in a fire water deck, it's very difficult to get wind in as a third color. I don't like. Definitely, people have made like tricolor decks work, but I don't like that inconsistency available to it. And so I don't think this card really sort of justifies it. I don't think this card's going to see any play, except for like some sort of water wind like deck, which potentially could see play. A deck similar to like sort of a Riku Unipain deck. So like a YRP that adds in some of the F7 stuff, and adds in a bit of this, like a really sort of fast deck. Get your bits and pieces real fast. Get your bits and pieces together really fast and sort of attack your opponent. Other than that, like I don't think that this card will see play to search for Faris really. Next card is Canola. Canola is a 1-cost 2,000 power forward, so it's small even by 1-cost forward standards. It cannot be blocked by forwards of 3 or more, so it's got the S tier like dodging ability. So you've got like cards that can't be blocked by 4 or more. That's kind of like the A tier, but like being unable to be blocked by forwards of 3 or more, that's like the S tier version. That's like the 1-cost Yuffie type level. So that's obviously strong. But if you control a card named Edge, Canola gains haste. So obviously, there's a lot of like ninja support in this set. That being said, though, like I don't know, like maybe like definitely like ninjas isn't tier 1. So obviously it's not going to be chucked in any sort of competitive deck. It's typically going to be definitely going to be run in a deck that's ninjas or with Edge. Yeah, definitely with ninjas, because if you're running Edge, you're probably running ninjas as well. So like this card seems like fun. It's a gimmick. It's a great way to just kind of sneak in extra damage. Play it if you're building some sort of casual fun deck, but otherwise, like competitively, no way. Next card is one of the wind summons, Diablos. It's a 3-cost wind summon. It's got EX Burst. Choose one forward, deal it 1,000 damage for each character you control. If you control a Class 0 cadet, forward, select 3 backups you control and activate them. So this card, like, this card was a godsend for Win, because Win did not see a lot of play during Opus 2 because the Emperor was quite oppressive and was seeing quite a lot of play. Okay, we're not going to go into this, get dragged into this debate of Emperor or not. But yeah, Emperor was seeing a lot of play, and Win fundamentally could not deal with it. Like, Win had a lot of activatable abilities, and Emperor shut them all down. So Wind, when they saw this card, they were like, thank God, it's what we needed, because they needed a way to be able to remove the Emperor, and this is one of their options. That being said, though, it's not an easy way to get rid of Emperor. Unless you're running a very swarm or very sort of aggressive deck, it's hard to get this card up to, like, say, 7 or 8. Like, you can have your 5 backups, and then have, like, 2 forwards on the field, and that's only 7,000 damage. So that's jumping through a lot of hoops for 7,000 damage. To get it up to 9,000, you have to have a lot of guys and a lot of backups in order to do it. So this isn't dealing a lot of damage. Obviously, if you're playing it in Ace Cadets, it becomes significantly strong because it's fundamentally a free summon. If you EX burst it, it also reactivates 3 of your backups. So that's where the big value comes in, where it's just like randomly, like you take a damage, you deal maybe like 5 or 6k to your opponent, and then you reactivate 3 backups, which all of a sudden just unlocks a whole lot of options for you, because now you can play additional responses against your opponent's attacks, or it like allows you to like reuse like Deuce's ability or whatnot. So yeah, this card I like it, but outside of a Type 0 cadet deck, Class 0, out of a Class 0 cadet deck, I don't think this will see any play. Simply because Win kind of has quite a few good pieces of removal, and the next summon is probably going to be much more relevant and much more reliable for getting rid of Emperor if Win needs it. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Next card is Deuce. Deuce, yeah, so we've spoken about Deuce a couple of times. It is a 2-cost backup. It's a Type 0 Ace Cadet. Its first ability is Wind and Dull, so choose one attacking forward, deal it 2,000 damage. So that's already quite good within itself. Paying 2 to deal 2,000 damage is quite solid. That's very cost efficient for a backup. It only applies to attacking forwards, but your opponent's generally attacking you, so it's pretty good. So it allows your smaller guys to trade up. And it's got an S ability called Concerto. Choose one forward, deal it 4,000 damage for each Class 0 cadet forward you control. Obviously, the second effect is only really relevant with a Class 0 cadet Class 0 cadet deck. I don't see it being activated too often in my games against the Ace cadets. I see Ace being activated a lot more often, but this card is also like fine. Like if you have two guys, that's 8,000 damage just for an S. You don't even have to dull this card to do it. So it's a strong ability. So like, and if you have 3 guys, and it's really easy for Ace cadets to have like 3 guys in the field, you're popping guys with 12k, so you're killing pretty much anything at that stage. So yeah, it's a strong card. Plus it's a 2-cost backup. So if you're like, obviously you're running Win. If you're running Deuce, you can use Assura to pick it up. So that's just like another great option for Assura. So now Assura can sort of like option select you between a couple of different great options. So just having an Assura on hand and having a backup means that you can use Assura to pick up a 7 when you need to, or pick up a Deuce, or pick up some other things, and to reactivate those S abilities. So yeah, I like this card. I might even potentially like try it and splash it in some like non-Ace, Class 0 cadet forward decks. Because yeah, the ability to Wind Dull for 2,000 damage actually doesn't sound too bad. So yeah. Next card is Dorgan, and this guy is probably the most played. Probably the most played Wind character from this set. It is a 3-cost forward at 6,000 power. It is a Dawn Warrior, so it's got some support with the other Dawn Warriors. Its ability is Dull, remove Dorgan from the game, choose one forward, remove from the game. So this card is a fantastic card. So even though it's smaller than your typical 3-cost, its ability is so fantastic. Like, all this guy needs to do is just survive one rotation, comes back to you, and this guy is almost always going to be relevant. So, so being able to just remove a forward from the game is like at no cost. All you have to do is dull him is fantastic. And you're removing them from the game as well. So any sort of enter break zone abilities, you handle that. So if you're trying to get rid of a Golbez or get rid of a Rinoa, this easily deals with it. Also, because it's removing itself, you don't feel too bad. There's no problem using this card to say remove a deleter. So that's fantastic. If you play this on an empty field, your opponent cannot really respond by playing a big guy to block it, because if they play a big guy, then Dorgan's going to remove it. So it forces your opponent to deal with your Dorgan as soon as you play Dorgan out. So inherently, as a 3-cost forward, it forces your opponent to use removal on him, or it prevents your opponent from playing their big guys. And if you play him and you can protect him, that means he's going to remove a big threat out of the game. So this card is really strong. If you're playing Wind, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be playing this guy. It's fantastic. Next card is Trey. Trey is a 4-cost Wind forward, 8,000 power. When Trey is active, he cannot be chosen by abilities your opponent controls. When he is dull, Trey cannot be chosen by opponent's summons. So yeah, so this is a card that's got some interesting sort of gimmicks available to him. Because yeah, Wind is a color that can reactivate its guys very easily. So there are going to be times where Trey is dull and he's choosable by the opponent's abilities, and then as soon as they do that, you can use your abilities to reactivate him and basically get to avoid some of those abilities or fizzle those abilities out. The fact that he can't be chosen by opponent's summons when he's dull is also fantastic. So so as a active forward, as a blocker, your opponent can't use dull abilities to dull him. So your opponent can't use Armor, your opponent can't use a lot of effects such as like Alcid. He is a very safe blocker in that regard, because he's just unable to be targeted while he's active. He's not undullable by a lot of things. So that's fantastic. And so when he's dull and when you're attacking with him, he can't be chosen by your opponent's summon. So if your opponent's trying to use a combat trick, they have to use defensive combat tricks like Golem or Belize. They can't use offensive ones such as like Choo Choo Lane or similar type of like nukes to sort of like deal with him. So yeah, this card's great. Obviously it's more of a fun, gimmicky sort of card. I don't know how, like, to be honest, this card has, like, no requisite to be in a Class 0 Cadet forward deck. So, you don't have to even put him in Class 0 deck. Obviously, he probably does see play in Class 0, but yeah, this card by itself just seems like a fun card to play. I don't know if it's sort of going to be contesting for a lot of like a lot of other 4-cost slots in wins. I think currently Balthier is probably still the best 4-cost option. But yeah, this card's like just a great 1 or 2 of if you're trying to deal with certain matchups. So for example, if you're building a win deck and you don't feel that you have enough support or in terms of defense against sort of ice decks or say lightning decks, then this card's a great like 2 of to put into your deck. Very similar to how Guy is kind of splashed into a lot of Earth decks to sort of hedge against the ice matchup. So yeah. Next card is the second win legendary of this set. It is Bartz. It is a 3-cost forward at 6,000 power, so it's a bit below the curve, but it's got some interesting abilities. So his first ability is that Bartz has the jobs of all forwards you control. His base ability is Freelancer, so he's got 1 job already. So and then he gets the jobs of all the forwards you control. If Bartz has 3 or more jobs, so basically if you have 2 more forwards with different jobs, then Bartz gains haste and first strike. If Bartz has 5 or more jobs, Bartz gets plus 3,000 power, brave, and can attack twice in the same turn. So obviously this card is a card that sort of really wants to emphasize you playing multiple guys and having a lot of guys. If you've got like 2 guys already that aren't freelancers, then yeah, it's a 3-cost first strike haste, like 6,000 power 4, which isn't bad actually. Yeah, it's got like a pretty solid package there. But yeah, obviously where it really sort of like becomes really oppressive is if you have 4 guys on the field and you play Bartz, he goes up to 9,000 power and he gets brave and first strike and haste and like all of this, right? So obviously people like immediately think, oh yeah, probably one of the few ways that you can actually get that many guys on the field is using Golbez. So maybe we might see him being chucked into Golbez. Yeah, definitely like Golbez would make most sense with him. But definitely if you're playing like a quick, sort of rampy, sort of water wind deck like Reek of Unipain, or something that uses the FF9 engine, then you're going to find yourself playing a lot of guys. It's very possible for you to have like 2 or 3 guys and just play Bartz out, and like he's coming in at a 6,000 power first haste first striker. But yeah, that's not bad already. So if you have multiple guys, then yeah, he gets even stronger, 3,000 power, and yeah, brave and can attack twice. It's actually like pretty good as well. So in this regard, he hasn't seen any play at all, and I'm really kind of surprised by it. I feel that he should be. I think he's test worthy, so it's worth decks kind of chucking him in to see if it sort of hits the mark or not. But I think right now people have kind of written this card off like too soon, you know. I would not be surprised if like maybe if he is kind of sleeper good, you know, like we'll go like 6 weeks down the track and it's like, oh man, have you seen like there's this top 8 deck, like top 8 like list in Japan where he was running triple Bartz because he was able to get like 2 or 3 guys out, and then all of a sudden like Bartz is like comes out really fast as a finisher. Bartz, like in my opinion, Bartz seems more of a finisher in that if you have a lot of guys down and you want to just basically end the game there, you pay free, get Bartz down, he can brave attack twice. Your opponent is going to find it very difficult to deal with a 9,000 haste first striker. That has brave as well and can attack twice. Obviously his weakness is if you play him and then your opponent uses some sort of ability to destroy one of your guys, then Bartz is losing jobs and losing his abilities as he goes. But that being said, yeah, I think that this card should see some play at some point. He might even be potentially sleeper good. But yeah, like I like cards like this. I like being able to build fun decks that have like cool, interesting gimmicks. And this guy's got a good gimmick. If you can pull this off, it's a good gimmick. But obviously it's just up to someone to sit down and really figure out what gimmick, like what way can you make this gimmick work. Next card is probably second or third almost probably could even be like strongest wind forward from this set actually is Barbariccia. It is a 4-cost forward at 7,000 power, so it's a little bit below the curve. But when Barbariccia enters the field, choose one forward your opponent controls, its power becomes 1,000 until the end of the turn. So do note that this is its printed power, so any sort of backup ability or secondary abilities that give guys buffs, these are all added on top of its base 1,000. So if your opponent's got like a card, say like a Maria, that's giving their guys a constant 1,000 buff, then their base power goes to 1,000 and then reapplies a buff, so they go up to 2,000 power. So it doesn't just instantly make all your opponent's guys 1,000. That being said, though, it is stupidly good. If your opponent does not have Minwu out, this is unbelievably good. You can just like run like one of your small guys in, and if your opponent blocks, or if you're like running one of your big guys in and your opponent has some sort of combat trick and you lose combat, you can then like just main phase 2 play Barbariccia, just like because their forward's already taken damage, as long as their forward's taken any reasonable amount of damage, Barbariccia will come in and instantly kill a person. Obviously this combo is very well with Wind, because Wind has a lot of AoE abilities or just kind of like little pokes. If you play this card with Y'shtola, so Y'shtola is a 2-cost forward that's able to convert CP into damage, so that's great within itself. As I was saying, Balthier, great Wind forward. Obviously Balthier is a great support card for this. So like, you play this, make the guy small, Balthier taps, kills it instantly. Not to mention, if you want, you can play like 3-cost Dancer to spread 1k, 1k damage, or you can just play Valifor, like if you're playing Riku Yuna Pain. Valifor's got great synergy with Yuna, and you're basically killing guys. So this card is super unbelievably versatile. Its effect is strong, it's versatile, and its body is not terrible considering it does all that. So this card is unbelievably good, and also it's an Archfiend as well. So if you're playing like Archfiend Golbez, this card is, you'd be dumb not to play this card. Like, obviously, like, this card is just good. So if you're playing Wind, check this, like, if you're playing Wind and it's not like the unblockable version of Wind, this card's a fantastic card. Just put it in. You won't regret it. This card will almost never just be like, oh, I wish I had a different Wind card. Most of the time it's just going to be like, hey, this card's fantastic. I'm just going to play down and, oh yeah, great. It has a fantastic result like 90% of the time. Next card is Windrake. Windrake is a 3-cost forward at 7,000 power. Its typing is Dragon, so I think it might be the first Dragon in the game so far. Its ability is Dull. Choose one forward you control. That is not Windrake. Return both it and Windrake to the opponent's hands. So this card is very similar to Scholar in that it's got a Dull ability, and you like return a forward to your hand. I actually very much like Scholar as a card, simply because in this game, yes, resources are relevant, but also one particular resource that's very limited in this game is the number of copies of cards. So, for example, if you had, I keep going back to Riku Yuna Pain, but there's probably like plenty of other examples as well. But in decks that can't recur their forward, so decks that aren't running, say, Lightning to recur Vying Sage, or decks that aren't using, say, Earth like Seraphy or Zeramis to recur forwards, you only have 3 copies of particular forward. So if you're trying to build your deck around a particular forward, and your opponent's able to deal with all 3 of them, then all of a sudden you're kind of like up shit creek, as they say. For example, like if you're like running the Garnet summon deck, if your opponent is able to deal with all 3 of your Garnets, then all of a sudden you're like just kind of screwed. So having ways to return guys to your hand in response to your opponent's combat tricks, or in response to your opponent's removal is great. This being attached to a 3-cost forward is a little bit expensive, but it's a decent sized 3-cost forward as well. So obviously, one way to use this card is to use the callback forwards to your hands in response to your opponent's stuff. But another way, and this might actually be like kind of crazy good, is that it allows you to reuse certain enter into play abilities. And so you start thinking, oh yeah, what cool enter into play abilities would be really good if I could reuse them again, So like immediately, like one of the best ones in my mind is Pain. So like Pain, if you control Riku and Yuna, it is a fantastic card. You get your backups back up for it, and you draw a card. So it's a free card. It's like a free 7,000 power forward. So imagine, just like you play a Pain down, it costs you nothing, and then you like reuse those same free backups, put a Windrake down. So okay, so you got two 7,000 power forwards at like cost of free. Like next turn, if you want to do that again, you attack with your Pain next turn. And then you use Windrake, recall Pain back to your hand. You play Pain down, you play a Windrake down, you draw a card. So that's one way. Or like let's say if you're blocking with a guy and you use Windrake to bounce it back to your hand, it means you're able to block the attack and you get to recall it forward. Another great card that you might want to do this is Bartz, 5 cost Bartz. So you put him into play, he reactivates all your wind forwards, and then you can put a Windrake down, So maybe you've attacked with a whole bunch of your wind forwards, you use Windrake to pull Bartz back up, you put Bartz down, reactivate all your wind forwards, and your wind backups, and you put Drake down. So obviously this card is like, he's definitely not a core part of a deck, he's more of like a subsidiary or like, just kind of like a fun extra, but I think that this is a fun extra that's got potential, and like if Wind just like kind of sees more play, or people start tinkering around with like all the cool combo things that you can do with it, you can make a really fun tier 1.5 like type of deck with Windrake in it. Definitely he's not going to be like a core of any deck, like a free of, but like you can chuck him in as a 2 of in certain decks, and I think he's just going to find himself interestingly useful every now and then. Yeah. So, next card is Geomancer. Geomancer is a 2-cost backup, and when it enters the field, deal 2,000 damage to all 4 your opponent controls. So, yeah, this is just like another AoE ability. At 2,000 damage, it's not particularly amazing, because you really want to be hitting 3,000 damage for an AoE to be able to wipe those like 1-cost 3,000 power forwards out. At 2,000 damage, it's kind of basically there to help your guys get over the edge. I don't foresee too many situations where you're going to have multiple of your opponent's guys that have taken that are 2,000 damage off lethal. I feel that this card's a little bit obtuse, and I don't feel it's got I don't feel that it's kind of got enough punch to it as it is. So, this card probably won't see any play. Obviously, it does it is a relevant 2-cost backup for you to recur with Van, like Legendary Van. That being said, even recurring this guy is just not scary. I'd much rather recur a Black Mage or a Vivi, to be honest. So this card, not impressive at all. Next card is Yuffie. It is supposedly one of the best Earth forwards of this set. So it's a 2-cost wind forward at 5,000 power. If you control a card named Vincent, the cost of playing Yuffie becomes 0. So Yuffie is a free card to play while you control Vincent, because Vincent and Yuffie are buddies apparently. And its ability is when the card name Vincent you control gets plus 1,000 power and brave. So that's just a fantastic card, its body isn't particularly amazing. It's like 2 for 5, but it's in most cases it's basically 0 for 5, right? And it makes your Vincent brave and plus 1,000 power. So the plus 1,000 power is great, and the brave is fantastic, especially if you're playing Death Penalty Vincent. So if Death Penalty Vincent has brave, it means he can attack, and then before your opponent declares any blockers, then use Death Penalty, clear some of your opponent's guys out, and just rush through the rest of the attack. Not to mention if Vincent clears out the way, then Yuffie can get secondary attacks as well. So this card's great. Obviously, any Earth deck that's playing Vincent, definitely chuck these in. You don't even have to be playing Wind. That's the crazy thing. You don't even have to play Wind to play Yuffie, okay? You can play Mono Earth. People have been playing Mono Earth decks with Vincent and just, having Yuffie in. You can even search it out with Jesse as well, this card's great. It's seeing play. It will see play. If you play Vincent, you're playing this card. Full stop. There's no reason not to. Next card is Oracle. It is a 2-cost Wind backup. Its ability is Wind. Put Oracle into the break zone, activate all characters you control. Actually, I think it might be Win-Win. Tap Oracle, put it into break zone, activate all characters you control. So, this card is surprisingly underrated. So do note that it says reactivate all characters you control, not necessarily just your forwards. So this is a big difference. So it reactivates all your backups as well. So fundamentally, by tapping this card and breaking it and discarding a win card, you get to reactivate everything. So that within itself is really, really strong. definitely it's going to be relevant in certain in the lightning and ice matchup. So yeah, this card's great. I'm not sure if I'd run 3 copies of it in wind. Obviously you want certain decks that can sort of like make use of it. But yeah, this card seems great. It will see play, even though like wind's not seeing a lot of play right now. But on paper, it's a very strong effect, and yeah, I foresee it like being able to replace like stuff like not horn, whatever the wind Moogle was. I think this will probably replace that. Yeah. Next card is Chaos Walker of the Wheel. It is a 3-cost summon that's also EX Burst. Choose one forward your opponent controls, break it. If that forward is put into the break zone, your opponent may play one forward from their hand onto the field. So this card has like quite a couple of components to it. So first of all, great. It's a 3-cost summon that just full stop breaks forward your opponent controls. So that's already a strong ability. And it's an EX Burst for that matter. However, its drawback is if that forward's put into the break zone, then your opponent may play a forward from their hand. So there's 2 ways to sort of get around this. So there's one in terms of you have a ability that removes forwards from the game, such as Enuo or Yuna. This just nullifies a secondary ability. So you break your opponent's forward, remove from the game, your opponent doesn't get to play new forward. So that's fantastic. So this is like another card that just kind of slots into the Riku Yuna Pain sort of synergy. But yeah, so it's great with that sort of combination. So that's fantastic. But even if you're not running Yuna H, if your opponent has no cards in hand, then there's no drawback to this. And furthermore, if you play Heroic Zidane, Heroic Wind Zidane, the one that we spoke about a little bit earlier in the video, his ability to make your opponent discard a card from their hand and to see their hand, you could potentially discard your opponent's last forward. You can see their hand and like, oh yeah, notice that they don't have a forward to put out. Then you can like use this without any sort of hesitation as well. So this card has a lot of ways to get around it. And yeah, I think if Win needed a way to get around Emperor, not that it really super needs it at the moment, but yeah, this card is probably the better way to go instead of Diablos. But yeah, it hasn't really seen much play so far, but like I think definitely if someone like sort of sits down and like rebuilds Riku Yuna Pain with Heroic Yuna and this, I think it's a fantastic card. So yeah. And finally, the final win card for the set is Rem. It is a 4-cost win backup. It's a class 0 cadet, and it is EX Burst. When Rem enters the field, choose one type 0 card from your break zone and add it to your hand. So do note that this card says choose a category type 0 card from the break zone, put it to your hand. So that can be a forward, backup, or a summon. So something to note is that this can add Diablos back to your hand. It can actually add the new Odin to your hand. It can add a lot of cards back to your hand. So, and it's an EX Burst for that matter. So this card is really quite strong. The fact that it's an EX Burst as well is crazy. Being able to recur summons is like something that's like generally quite difficult to do. It's become a little bit easier this set. But yeah, being able to recur like any type 0 card is really strong. So definitely in any sort of Ace Cadet deck, I think this will definitely see play. It's an Ace Cadet, so it bumps that Ace Cadet number that you have. And yeah, it's just being able to pull back any type 0 means that it's got a lot of flexibility as well. So this card will see play. It's a fantastic card. I might even try experimenting with it outside of strictly the class 0 cadets. So yeah, that is the set review for all win cards for Opus 3. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I apologize for the delay, but this week I'm going to be putting out a whole lot more content. So yeah, I'm going to get these all finished up and get these all pumped out. And I've got some cool deck videos I want to share with you guys as well. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought, what your opinions on some of the cards are, and any sort of feedback is great, just to sort of let me know like what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Grand J out.